Hello, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Nick Up podcast. Um, Today's topic, subject, however you want to put it, is RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Now, to a lot of people, um, or I would say probably most people that I know that have ADHD aren't even aware of RSD. It is, I personally think it probably makes up maybe 80% of ADHD. Um, of course, ADHD brains are wired differently. It's easy to say wrong, um, and they're not wired normally, but I always say the same thing about the word normal. What is normal? I don't know, because my normal and your normal are completely different things. And so is everybody else's in the world, you know? So, what is normal? I don't know. And to be honest, I don't really care to try and find out. Um, but it's easy to say, an ADHD brain is wired this way. The best way to put it is to say it's not neurotypical. Okay, it's not neurotypical. The typical person, let's say, that has things in order and doesn't struggle with specific aspects of their life due to the way that their brain works. That's one way of putting it. Now, with RSD, um, it is, I mean, if you was to Google it, it would say something along the lines of intense emotional distress or intense emotional pain uh, linked to rejection, or what some would class as rejection, what you'd think of, you'd perceive as rejection. It's not logical, it's not chosen, it's immediate, and it's physical. It's not actually about the rejection itself, it's about how the brain processes threat. That's the key part about this. So I believe that this also links in quite well with heightened anxiety. Um, the way that you will go into situations, you'll go in with a guard, because you're worried of the outcome of how it could go. And then when you go in and the inevitable happens that you've been expecting to happen, you feel hurt. I think that with RSD, it almost catches you off guard because I don't believe you have a guard. I think you go into these situations assuming that everything's okay, or that, things are fine. And then when it seems as though it isn't, even if it is, all of a sudden the whole world's ending. Literally, shit's crashing. It's like, oh man, like it's literally the end of the world. Um, I think that I feel that when I was young, I had I had girlfriends when I was young, and I feel like I used to I'd say probably like smother them with love almost. Like I loved, like it was almost like I loved instantly, or I wanted to give that off because I was frightened of losing this person. And it was always about, I don't want to lose you. And I never quite get that. I never quite understand that saying. If you've got something already, why are you talking about losing it all the time? Or not wanting to lose it? Why are you not nourishing it and trying to look after it? You know? So the reason that I speak about RSD so much is that the way that it has an impact, especially on me, um, I am I'm cold. I'm very cold. I'm quite emotionless nowadays. But at the same time, I'd be lying if I didn't say, if I'd be lying if I was to say that I wasn't passionate about stuff. No, it's hard, and it's a big mix, because when you're passionate about stuff, you obviously care about it. You have to, because otherwise you wouldn't have that passion inside of you. But dealing with RSD for so long, you I've developed this guard that is impenetrable, is almost impossible to break down at all. The majority of people I come across, especially females, say you're impossible to read. I can't understand. Like, I thought I knew how you was gonna be or who you was, and you're impossible to understand, or you're impossible to read. You know, how can I go through my life being a person that is an avoidant forever? That's a question I get asked quite a lot. But for me, I'm way more than content alone. I'm way more than content alone. Or that's at least what I say. I think that over time, maybe time will tell whether that's correct or not, or whether that's accurate. I mean, right now it's 12:07 on Christmas Day. I'm alone. I've hardly had any real human interaction, especially nothing positive. I'm currently in a bad situation and not where I want to be, due to no fault of my own. And do I feel lonely? Do I? Fuck no. I won't speak on the situation right now because I can't, and it would ruin the whole episode, the whole whatever you want to call it. But the only thing that I feel, the only thing that has any sort of effect on me is my children, first of all, and most of all, um, and then my brother, and maybe three friends. I think that's about it. I think that other than that, I've made myself so resilient because of RSD that not much can enter my inner matrix. It's not allowed. I don't allow it any longer. The only time I show real emotion is when it comes to my children, because that's my heartbeat. That's all I have. And rejection sensitivity dysphoria is it's powerful. It can do so much. It can do so much wrong, I think. In terms of positives, I'm not too sure what positives it gives. I suppose it may protect you a little from getting hurt, but I feel that that's just a part of life. Um, I really do. I think that getting hurt is a part of life. Some things that you have to go through to grow through. Um, and then you keep moving forward, the majority of the time at least. But an ADHD nervous system is very sensitive. So there's lifelong patterns of criticism and being corrected or misunderstood, which is a huge thing. Or being too much. Oh, it's just too much. Like, just goes on too much. Just talks for too long, and it's just like, people. When you've had that throughout your life, it molds your brain to believe that that's what's coming. So if they're the sorts of negative things that you've heard throughout of your life, then the rejection's happened already, isn't it? It's been happening for so long that It wires its way into your brain. You become used to it, and that's sad more than anything. It's sad, but then the later in life it goes, the stronger those effects are. And it may be a situation where you're expecting it or not. I'm not too sure whether that has much relevance or not, but it's the feeling of it is an intense, overwhelming, world crushing moment. All of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, it just pops up. And I have an example. So, um, I was at the hospital. I went for an appointment in Oxford. I'd driven to Oxford, um, got to the hospital, gone to park, gone into the car park. A really busy day. Um, I think there's about 6 cars sort of queuing and waiting. And I see an old guy coming out of his car, coming out of the hospital, going to his car. So all of these cars are passing by. Now I've noticed him. By the time it gets to me, at this point I'm close to the exit of the car park. He's parked at the exit, and I've noticed him and noticed that he's looking at his car, and it's at the exit. So I thought, sweet, right, I'm gonna slow down, let him get in. He's gonna move. I'm gonna get in there, and everyone else is, gonna be like lucky bastard, whatever. So I stop, and I'm kind of just, giving him a bit of time. He's an older guy. Leave him to whatever he's got to do, and then we can get going. So I'm sitting there, everyone's sort of looking at me. I'm getting beat that I'm indicating now, and at this point he's noticed me indicating and noticed that I'm waiting for him. Now I sit there in the car and I'm checking the time. Obviously, if you listen to the first episode, you'll understand urgency. Um, I've got to be in an appointment in, you know, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it may be, probably 10 minutes. Now I've got this guy who's noticed me, and this may have happened to you previously. If sometimes you might be in a car park and you've got like, you've got someone trying to, now I don't want to say purposely delaying, but like it's like they don't want to be rushed and they're not going to be rushed. And it's like, all right, cool. Like you've made your point now. Like I've been waiting here 10 minutes now. Like, come on, man, get the fuck out of the way. Like, come on, man. Like, all right, you made your point. Like, you're not going to be rushed. I'm not even trying to rush you at this point. I'm just saying, like, I just need to park and get in a fucking appointment. Now, this guy has literally folded his arms as if to say, I am moving out the way. So I'm like, for fuck's sake, like, is there any chance at all? No chance. So I drive out the car park. No. As soon as I drive out the car park, and I mean, I'm not even out, I'm going out the exit, he starts his car and he's pretty much behind me. Now my head is gone. I'm livid. So RSD moment, I get out my car at the exit whilst he's behind me. So I think he pulled behind me, or he may have been one car behind. I've got out the car, parked my car, locked it, gone to his car. I think I said, you're a prick or something. Like, why would you do that? What a prick. And walked into my appointment. So I've blocked the whole car park. I've blocked every person in this car park now. Nobody's going. Nobody's getting in or out. And remember, I said at the start of this that it's a super busy day. There's cars everywhere. Now, there's probably people trying to get to important appointments. What I'm trying to explain is the level of rejection or disrespect, whatever, like however it is portrayed by that ADHD brain, nothing else really matters in that moment. It's kind of like, why the fuck, like why me? Why are you doing that to me for? You've specifically chose to do that to me. Now, in reality, So at that time, I'd only just began medication, and I was getting used to things, and I was still very, 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 very unstable. But I've got out the car, left the car, and gone up to my appointment. Now there's all of this noise because I'm waiting for my neurologist, and there's cars beeping, 10 plus cars beeping, people are shouting, going crazy. I've gone in to see my neurologist, speak to her, and I think we heard this noise and whatever, and I'd explained the situation, and then she sort of come back and said, "You need to go and move your car." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "If you parked your car like down there and just left it," and I was like, "Yeah." She's like you cannot do you cannot do that. What are you doing? So I'm like, "Ah, oh, right, okay, cool." So I've gone down, moved my car. I can't remember what happened where I put it, and I've gone back up. And obviously she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "The guy's a prick. Like he's literally just blocked me in for literally for no reason. Like he's not let me get into the parking space. And as soon as I go out, he's just literally like he's moved instantly. So I'm fucking I'm livid." And she's like, "Right." Now he's like, "I'm so glad that this has happened when you're here because now I can explain to you that this is a severe case of RSD. This is RSD at its finest." And the reason I'm explaining this is obviously just for an example, but everything that I explain to you, if you're listening to this, is I want you to try and get a hold of what I'm saying and try and mold it into a situation you've experienced before, something that you've already gone through that may have made you feel like that, or if it didn't, then maybe along those lines, because then you're going to start understanding things. And when you start to understand things, you're gonna at least evaluate before you do it again or it happens again. You're gonna understand like that situation wasn't like now. That's not something I'm gonna do. Like, listen, I might still call someone a prick, but I'm gonna drive off. That's my choice. That's immature. But at the same time, I'm frustrated if that's what somebody's doing. They're slowing down my day, whatever. You're a twat, whatever. I'm moving, but I wouldn't ever do that again. Um, and now that's not because I have control of RSD, because I don't believe you ever actually have control over it, because I feel that it's that strong. So I don't actually think you're ever going to have real full control over RSD, but it's manageable nowadays. It's manageable, or it's more manageable than it once was. That's a definite. And that also leads on to explaining something about ADHD. Um, I sometimes get a bit pissed off and a bit confused because I think like I've taken all my medication on time. Like, why am I still feeling this or why am I still feeling that? And again, this was something that come from my neurologist. Um, she said, "But you still have ADHD," and it's like, "Oh yeah, I do." Yeah, like it's kind of like taking some paracetamol for a headache and then thinking you're never going to get a headache again. Like that might be a super shit analogy, by the way, and I'm way too deep. I'm way too deep into this to be starting again. Like I want to keep everything raw, but that might be quite shit. But what my point is that it's still there. It's still there, or it's still possible that it can pop up and make an appearance. ADHD will forever be there. Whether you medicate it, you self medicate it, whatever you do, it's going to be there. If that's how your brain was wired when you were born, that's how your brain's wired. Now, some things show later on in life. Like I said, so I feel that I don't know exactly how many versions that there is. I know of like two that are like obvious, and I think it may just be two, but you have internal and external hyperactivity. Mine was internal. So you know how you'd associate ADHD with children bouncing off the walls and screaming, shouting, can't calm down, and like the stereotypical, right? Like that's you see a child acting like that, oh, they've got ADHD. Okay, right. Um, and sometimes they do, but for me personally, it was internal hyperactivity. So all of that you see going on, or with a child, the bouncing off the walls, the outburst, the tics, all of that sort of stuff. I've got all of that going on inside my body, and it's not a nice feeling. It is not a nice feeling. So that can present in panic attacks, in palpitations, racing thoughts, imminent danger, impending doom, all of those horrible feelings and emotions that you can get. Um, that's how it can present. That's how ADHD can present. So some people, obviously, like I said, assume straight away, oh, I can't do this and I can't relax, I can't, etc., etc. I must have ADHD. It's not always the case. I feel that sometimes you just need to. Sometimes, if it's a situation where you can't relax, there may be something on your mind that you need to go through and and work out. And I think nowadays, I think that it's so easy to just pick up our phones or go on the laptop and just sort of put like a blanket over what's going on, rather than sit there and try and work through your thoughts and why you're feeling like you are. I was really bad at it for so long, and even still now, I still have days or moments where I'll still do that. I'll still behave that way. I'll still just try and cover it up and just get on with it. But the majority of the time, what I like to do, which is a bit weird to a lot of people, is I like to sit in the dark. I like to sit in a dark room. Sometimes I'll have a computer there, like just because, whatever, I might need some music, or I might have my phone. But what I'm doing with that is they're sort of just there for communication. They may even be on airplane mode at some points, but I like to always be available in case of emergencies. When I went through the phase of um, the real intense anxiety, I had extreme health anxiety, like ridiculous. It was horrible, horrific, and I think I still hold that for other people now, not as much myself. So I like to be available, so I'm quite sharp on my phone. Um, if I'm not, then I'm probably not interested in talking to anybody at the time of a message coming through, and nobody can get through to me unless it's to do with my children. And then the world stops for that. But um, what my point was is that I like to sit in a room. I like to sit in a dark room and go through my thoughts and understand why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And I think it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot. Not necessarily balls, but it takes a lot to stay interested. I think it's one part of it. And to stay in the room, um, and sit with all of the thoughts, because it can be uncomfortable. You have to be super honest. And when it's just you and yourself, if you're not honest, you're fucked. You ain't got nothing. You have to be super honest. So, like I said at the start, or near the start of this, I'm quite cold. I feel that sometimes That's a bravado. That's what I have to do to protect myself because of the fears of RSD. And I think it's quite easy to relate, especially for females. It would be quite easy to relate because females normally have quite a high guard up when they first meet a man, or they'll have certain things that they won't do. Some girls won't have sex for the first couple of dates, or they want to see someone for a week before any sort of intimacy, or that's just examples. But women always have this guard of they expect to get hurt, or they expect a bad outcome, let's say. And I think that is like a sign or a trait of RSD. And now that's not to say every girl has RSD, has ADHD and RSD, because it's not at all. But how RSD looks, and not just from a female point of view, is it can work sort of both ways. So you can like over apologize. Um, that's one thing, like over apologizing and sort of being like almost a little bit submissive, I guess. Like, oh, like sorry, I do apologize. And now I feel that I can sometimes over apologize, but I do mean it. I feel that if I'm sorry, then I am genuinely sorry. If I'm not sorry, then I don't give a fuck. Unfortunately, for whoever it is that is bothered, I don't care. And I, in them sort of terms, I am ice cold. Because if I feel that it's justified, then again, it links to RSD. But if I feel that it's justified because of actions that somebody has used against me, or accused me of, for example, anything along those lines, and I react, I feel that that's justified. And that's not always correct. That's not always the correct way to go about things. And that could be me being stubborn. But at the same time, I'm maintaining respect for myself, and I'm maintaining my worth by doing that. And if you can manage to do that, I feel that it's hard for anyone else to bring you down or devalue you, because having your own price and your own worth and abiding to that and sticking to it and not letting it drop, I don't see much wrong with that. Again, this is purely my opinion, but I'm just looking at it from as many points of view as possible, but giving my own opinion too. Sometimes RSD it can look like different things. Sometimes it can look like confidence. Sometimes it can look like you're angry. Sometimes it can be pure silence. But they're all the same thing. There's just different ways that it can come out. There's different ways that it can affect you. But it gets misunderstood a lot, a hell of a lot. Some people will call it insecurity, like you're just so insecure because you need reassurance of this, or like you're always asking if I'm okay, or you're asking what I'm doing, or whatever it may be. Overreactions, that's a huge thing. I think that people think, oh, like that's such an overreaction, there's absolutely no need for it. And some of the time, or all of the time, you don't have control over it. It's like do you think I want to react in that way? Like, I don't. That's not what I want to do. That's not what that wasn't my intentions. And this is something that's big for relationships and for partners to understand, is that if your partner has ADHD and they react in sort of drastic ways, or like ways you think like, fucking hell, like you need to try and understand before you, how can I say this so that it's fair? Because it has to be fair on both sides, of course, because you can't have someone with ADHD that thinks they hear me talking or they hear someone else saying it as well, and they're like, right, I'm just going to be a prick because I've got ADHD. That's not what this is about. This is All of this is about culpability, and understanding and being there for someone that you love and care about. Now, if your partner has ADHD and they do act in these ways, or they react in these ways, it is best to try and diffuse the situation before you go into trying to address the behavior. That's what I believe is the best thing to do, because if not, it leads to RSD. And when it leads to RSD, shit's gonna start going wrong super fast. Like, it's going down like a sock, a, a, a weight attached to a sock. Again, one of these absolutely terrible descriptions of something, or analogies, whatever it wants to be called. Um, but it really shit will start going left real quick, real quick. It will, because now there's two things. It began with RSD, with the whole, the way that they've you may have said something, or however something's come across to them, and they've reacted to that because of RSD. Like, oh, like, let's say it's an overreaction to something, something you've said, that, oh, them trainers are like ugly, and I'm like, well, I like the trainers. Like, why? Like, what's it got to do with you? Why would you even say that to me? I think your trainers are disgusting. Look at the state of them. Then it's like, wow, there wasn't no need for that, was there? And it's like, wow, you started that, because that's like, why are you mentioning my trainers for? Like, now that seems like a super petty argument, don't it? That sort of sounds like a little nitpicking thing. Like, you've said this about my trainers. You've not said anything wrong as the female in this situation. You've not said anything wrong. You've just said, oh, them trainers are a bit ugly. And okay, it might not be the best thing to say, especially to someone with ADHD, but to a neurotypical person, they're probably going to react like, oh, really? Do you not like them? Well, I think they're all right. I'm going to wear them anyway. Whereas somebody with ADHD is going to be super defensive. Well, what do you mean? Like, look at the state of yours. It has to. It's like it's like it was a planned attack on you. It's like a planned attack on them, and now they need to sort of react and get even with you. And it then becomes unhealthy, right? Because now you're tit for tat, and you're in a situation where you're like, well, this is going nowhere fast except from down the drain. All over what? A comment about trainers. And then now as a female, you're probably feeling a certain type of way, like, I wish I didn't say anything. And on the other hand, you've now got somebody riled up, your partner's riled up and feeling however they feel, that you don't like what they wear, you don't like their style, you don't like their fashion, you hate their trainers, they're ugly, they look ugly on them. Could they be ugly? Do you fancy them? That's the spiral this goes into. And again, to a neurotypical brain, that probably sounds ridiculous. But if it does sound ridiculous, then that's a good thing, because that means you should probably be a little more aware. Now, again, quite a normal, I suppose, a normal reaction, whatever normal is again, um, would probably be to, that would probably be to say, well, it's a bit unfair, isn't it? What I would say to that is that, if you've got to be like super patient and stuff, what I would say to that is, be aware of the relationship you're in. And I mean this I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. Be aware of the situation and the relationship you're in, because things may not change. Things may not change because, for one, ADHDers don't like change, for starters. Two, what this episode is about is RSD and the effects it can have, all mold into change. And um, wanting some things to be different, some things not. So be aware of the situation you're in, because a lot of the time, people with ADHD, especially with severe ADHD, they don't have much, if any, control over these things, whether they're medicated or not. Okay, they don't have much control, so they can't just say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna stop doing that," and then just stop, because it's more powerful than that. It's much more powerful than that. This overtakes stuff. This overrides logic or what you want to do. This is pure emotion. No, this is just, it just comes out. It's pure impulse. So as much as you may have been with a person for years and been like, that's just how he is, or, yeah, maybe he'll change one day, whatever. The reason I say be aware of your situation is because you need to be aware of it. If you're not a patient person, or you don't care about the person enough to learn to be patient with them and to learn to understand them, then you're in the wrong position, you're in the wrong situation. It is literally that simple. You could love the person dearly, you could have children, family, and think that you get on great. I'm telling you now, at some point it will get to the point of, I can't do this now. It's too hard. It's just too much, or you're too this or you're too that. Or on the flip side, it will be the person with ADHD who's just, it's all getting too much, and it starts showing in different ways. The way they talk to you, the way they act, they're paranoid, they're insecure, they're all of these things. And it may sound harsh, but that does come back to the other party of understanding. And for people that are undiagnosed, I look at it now and think, wow, like, I know that I used to be like that. I used to be very insecure. But I used to portray that I wasn't. But I used to be super insecure about everything. Um, and I used to just hide it and get on with it. And I was in a very unhealthy relationship for a long time. Um, where I've ended up, yeah. I won't even speak on it, but extremely unhealthy relationship with someone that had no interest in learning about me or helping me get past things that I was struggling with in terms of um, trying to trying to manage my emotions or regulate my emotions, um, at least, and make changes to my life. And if you've got somebody like that, again, this is from experience, and this is from hard, painful experience. If you are an ADHD and you're aware of it, you're aware of a person, your partner, and they are that way, that they're not really interested in wanting to learn or adjust, then take it from me. Try and do something about it. If you love them and care about them, try and do something about it, because try and make them try and make them understand things in the best way you can. Just be honest. Being honest is hard sometimes, because vulnerability isn't always the nicest place. It's not the safest place to be, is it? And that also links to RSD, because being vulnerable, you're putting everything on the line. Now, if you're being vulnerable and all of a sudden you get told, your trainers are ugly, or, along those lines, all of a sudden it's, whoa, fuck this, I'm not, you hate me, you don't, and yet again, they seem like super irrational things, super irrational thoughts of. And I suppose for the neurotypical person, they're probably thinking like, "Fucking what? Like you joking me? Like that's like the biggest overreaction ever." Now, if that is what you think as a neurotypical person, it is always best to never let a neurodiverse person hear that. I promise you that now, because they will grow to resent you. And again, that is a promise. however much they love you, they will grow to resent you. Because you can't tell somebody with ADHD, oh, you just blame it on ADHD. How you wouldn't go up to somebody in the street, right, that has no legs and tell them to walk, and when they say I can, you wouldn't say you just blame being in a wheelchair. You wouldn't do that, would you? Now, this could be a debate or an argument, whatever it may be. Mental illness, disability is exactly the same as physical, if not worse. Because I'll tell you why. I had this discussion with someone not too long ago about people always say things like, oh, but I think it's just in my head. Well, guess what? Your brain's in your head. So it's just in your brain. Yeah. So if you're thinking of something, but you say, oh, but maybe it's just in my head, you're thinking that for a reason. Whether it's right or wrong, whether you're correct or incorrect with what you're thinking it for a reason. Whether you thought up a scenario in your head and that's why you're thinking it, or whether something's happened to trigger it. You're thinking it for a reason. But people say things like, oh, maybe it's just in my head. Well, yeah, your head's where everything happens. Your head is where everything goes on. So if you are mentally disabled but physically able, you're still going to struggle. There's going to be things like inconsistency. I struggled a lot with consistency when I played football. Timing, coordination. There's going to be things that affect you either way. And the same way as if you're physically able, if you're mentally, if you're mentally stable, let's say, but physically disabled, eventually there's probably going to take a toll on your mental health, isn't it? So you can see it from both sides of the coin. And the best thing to do in the situation, what my point is that it's best to try and learn. It's best to try and learn and understand. And I feel that if somebody cares about you enough, it's not going to be anything too big or too small. I don't think it is. I don't think it's really possible for that to be the case. Because if you matter that much to a person, then whilst doing a little bit of studying, you can go and sit on TikTok for 15 minutes a night, or, in reality, 2 hours a night. Why not read about RSD for 15 minutes a night and see if your life improves? Your life, see if that gets better, because you can now start to understand your partner and understand why they're going the way they are. And listen, I've used a female in this scenario. This works either way, by the way. This isn't just men. I'm just talking from a male point of view. Understand stuff. If you can sit and watch TikTok videos about trends and the latest fashions and what Molly May's doing, and her kid, and how, we've all got 24 hours in a day, even if you're in the middle of Palestine getting bombed by Israelis, we've all got the same 24 hours. Nonsense. But what my point is that if you can sit and watch a load of nonsense, why would you not want to watch something that is informative and teaches you about something you care about? Because you could be sharing a house and a bed and a life with somebody and be learning about them with a small segment of time that you're on your phone. And that's going to improve your whole life. But instead, it does come down to laziness. You've got to be a bit lazy to not do it. Some people are unaware. What my point is that if you've been made aware of it and you're ignoring it, it's laziness. If you're unaware that you could learn about these things and it's going to make your life easier, and you choose to do it, fair play to you. Because obviously, I think it shows people's morals and what they stand for. Because if you stand for your partner, then you'll do right by them. You'll do what's best for them. You'll do what's best for you as well. It's going to help you and improve your life if that's the person that you want in your life. It always will. Um, the the one thing with RSD that's probably best to remember is it's not, it isn't a personality flaw. It's not. It is, it's a nervous system response that's been shaped by experience. And I don't know if I'm 100% right in saying it. I feel like it's a little bit too broad for it to only affect ADHDers. But I believe that the general belief around it within the medical professionals is that you have to be neurodiverse. If not, you have to have ADHD as one of the two, I believe, to experience RSD. Which for me, I feel is quite broad. I feel that there's like there's a lot of elements to it. There's a lot of things to take into consideration to say, um, like you have to have ADHD to feel this. And obviously, it's not going to be one specific thing. But I mean, if you're sort of just if you're feeling those sorts of emotions, it is very intense. It's extremely intense, and it can turn into huge arguments because it can flip your whole mood. It can almost present as bipolar. That's how strong it is. That it can literally switch off everything. You could be having the best day ever, and you get a text or you get something. And listen, that can happen to anyone, right? Of course it can. You can get a text that ruins your day, but this level of this is one of these situations where I don't if you can relate. You see an ADHD that's sort of been in a bad state since something took place, and um, it's almost like revenge is pending, or um, they need answers, and until they get there, until they get to that place, they are in that same horrible mood where they just look down, depressed, suicidal sometimes, um, or because of one sometimes small situation, or sometimes a situation that's blown out of proportion by the beliefs that RSD will drive you to think. Now, I don't know exactly how well I've touched on this, um, but I hope I've given a bit of an insight at least. I really do. I hope I do, because I think that RSD could save a lot of people and relationships. And I've seen relationships break down that never needed to. I think that I was in one myself, and don't get me wrong, now there's a lot more to that I'm very glad about. But I just feel that homes can be broken from these sorts of situations when all it would take is a little bit of effort. It takes effort from the ADHD side, but always remember, if you are neurotypical, that a lot of these things they cannot control. They do not have control over them. As much as they may seem able and they may seem capable of going to work, cooking you dinner, etc., etc., some of these things, the emotional side of ADHD, for me, the most important part, some of these things they do not have control over. So look at life, we all die, right? We do not have control over when that happens. I've had a stillborn baby. If I could have chose for my own fate to be on a certain day so that he could have lived on, you do it, wouldn't you? We don't have control over these things, and that's it's to literally to that extent. It's the only way to put it on the same sort of level. You need to understand there's only one way of having control over something. You know, you can have control over something. It's possible to have control over something, but there are some things that cannot be controlled. And unfortunately, our brains are one of those things. We cannot have complete, if we had complete, what do we use? I think, is it something like 10% of our brains? If we had complete control of our brains, we'd be doing the craziest things. I think there's some sort of, some film on there, some girl or something that can use like more of her brain, and it was put together by scientists or something like that believe this is what would go on. It's very important to understand that. It's really, really important, because sometimes you can think, oh, he's being a prick again, you know. But if RSD's hit that day, I mean, it really is, literally is crazy as it may sound to some people. It is literally just, yeah, that's it for today. You know, that, like, that's how things are going to be, right? Well, at least right now. And this is why I said about the studying, or just, you know, a few videos, like just little articles, whatever it may be. It wouldn't take you long, and it's free. You know, like, if I could change my life and it be completely free, oh yeah, no problem. I'll invest a bit of time into that. No issue. No issue at all. As long as it makes sense. And if it's something I want in my life, then it makes sense. So, um, yeah, it's probably taken me a long time to get to this point of the episode. But it's probably where I wanted to close anyway. Um, trying to drill that into people, that sometimes they don't have we don't have control over the things that we do, the ways that we react to things. We don't always have control. And I think on that note, probably a good place to close up for this episode. I'm definitely 100% going to come back to RSD at some point, because there's not enough time. You could talk about it for hours. And what I want to do is, I want to try and talk to somebody else about it. Hopefully, get my neurologist on a call, or even on a pod, to talk about it as well. Because she's just out of this world, unbelievable expert. Um, and I'm going to share some links of some. There's a guy called William Dodson, Bill Dodson. My neurologist calls him. I'm going to share some links for his page. He does some stuff on RSD also, and yeah, hopefully we can help some people, because some people do need it. And some people just need the awareness of what can be done. So yeah, hopefully I've been informative, at least a little bit. And yeah, I hope you all have a good Christmas. Um, I'll be spending mine alone. I have done for the last few years now, I think 3 years or so, something like that. And that's probably due to RSD. That is the cold hard facts. So yeah, enjoy your day, everybody. I'm here smiling. I will always be okay. I hope everyone else is good, and you have a good Christmas, a good Boxing Day, a good New Year's. Happy holidays.